All right, let's start off talking Social Security. Specifically, let's talk Social Security for spouses. And you know, Social Security is very complicated. And it's very difficult for many people to navigate through. When should I take it? When should my spouse take it? If my spouse takes it early, is she going to be able to get half of mine when she hits full retirement age? We get these questions all the time. And about 70% of people, I just read a survey that over 70% of people aren't sure if they've done the right thing with their Social Security choices. And it's very important that you get advice, and that's the whole theme of everything I ever talk about on this program when it comes to money. Is too many people just do things without getting the proper financial advice. And there's many places you can get financial advice: a financial planner, an accountant, online. Do your research. When we're talking Social Security, socialsecurity.gov is a wonderful resource. And we'll talk about what you can do on that website in a little bit. But for many people, Social Security, more than half the country who are retired, Social Security is their main source of income. Which is a whole nother topic, why we're retiring now en masse with very little savings and in many cases debt. But for many people, Social Security. So the decisions we make with Social Security are very, very important. Now, obviously, the younger you take Social Security, the less you're going to get. But most people, more than half the people who take Social Security, take it at 62. And thereby leaving as much as 30% more on the table for the rest of their life if they waited for full retirement age. But many people have no choice. How many people have been laid off or furloughed or let go due to COVID? But before COVID that was happening, it was a big deal because I see it in my practice. I see people coming in their late 50s, wanting to roll over their 401k or their pension or whatever, and they tell me, I was working for a big corporation for 37 years. I was a great worker, had good evaluations. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, pink slip. And that's what corporate America is doing en masse right now. They're trying to get rid of the pension obligation, the salary obligation, the health care obligation. And they want to replace you with somebody who could do your job at a fraction of the cost. And these companies are coming up with all kinds of reasons why we have to get rid of you, and the bottom line is the bottom line. That's why they get rid of you. So a lot of people now are forced to take Social Security early because, hey, I'm 60 years old, I'm 62 years old, who's going to hire me? I might as well just retire now, take my Social Security early. The problem with taking Social Security early, as I said before, you're going to get less for the rest of your life. The problem with taking Social Security at your full retirement age is you have to wait. So what if my wife takes Social Security now and I wait to full retirement age? Is that a smart move? Maybe it is. Sometimes it is. But everybody's different. One of my clients were in this week and he said to me the question, what if my wife takes it at 62? Will she be able to get a higher amount, half of mine, when I take it at full retirement age? And that was something I had to research because I didn't know. And he answered no. If you're a spouse and you start taking Social Security based on a spousal, now there's two different things you have to keep in mind. You could take Social Security based on your earnings history as the spouse. Or you would take the spousal benefit if it's larger. And that's something you have to be aware of. You can't, if you're taking a spousal benefit at 62, you're going to get less than 50% for the rest of your life permanently. It doesn't get bumped up to 50%. Now, what some people do is if both spouses worked, one will take it earlier at a reduced amount based on their own benefits, not a spousal benefit. And then the other one the one who will get the most money will wait till full retirement age. A full retirement age for most people now is somewhere between 66 and 67, depending on when you were born. But if the spouse did not work enough to get the benefit based on their own income, then they're going to take the spousal benefit. And of course, if you're a widower or a widow, you get bumped up to the higher amount, or the 100% of what the spouse got. But it's very important to understand these rules. Now, what if you're divorced? How does that work? Well, if you were married to your spouse for 10 years or longer, and now you're divorced and unmarried, the spousal rules count still. Meaning at full retirement age, you can get 50% of your ex-husband or ex-wife's benefit. Now, it doesn't hurt them at all. So, I mean, even some husbands mistakenly try to negotiate this out like it hurts them in some way. It doesn't hurt you at all. You're still getting your full benefit. You're not getting any more or less if your divorced spouse is collecting based on your earnings. But this question I get all the time. Should I wait? Should I take it now? The answer to that question simply is, if you have other assets, then you should wait. It doesn't have to be other income. I mean, that helps as well. But if you have other assets, and you could scrape out that extra 4 years, and you believe you're going to live a full life, then it's important to wait. At least one of you. Very, very important. And why is it important to wait? Well, say you're the husband, and you wait to full retirement age, and you pass away. Well, now your surviving spouse is going to get that higher amount for the rest of their lives. Your amount, 100%. Which again would be about 30% more if you waited to full retirement age. Now, you don't have to take it at full retirement age at 66 or 67. You can wait till 70. That's when it maxes out. It still keeps going up 8% a year if you wait till 70. And many people now are opting for that. They're not waiting for full retirement. They're waiting to 70. Why would they make that decision? I mean, longevity. You live to be 70, there's a good chance you're going to make 90. Many people are still working till 70. Why would you want to take Social Security if you're working and you don't need it? And let's face it, 70 isn't what it used to be. I remember when my father was 70. He looked pretty old. I don't think I'm going to look the age he did at 70 when I'm 70. And I think that's true for most of us. Healthcare is more advanced. We take better care of ourselves. We eat better for the most part. Well, I shouldn't really say that. I mean, many people out there are really not in good shape and don't eat well. I'd say the majority of Americans don't. But a lot of people do. Take better care of themselves. Now, what you could do is, say you're a spouse, and you start taking benefits at 62 based on your own earnings. It's not a spousal benefit. It's your own earnings. And then when your spouse hits full retirement age, starts taking theirs, half of his will be bigger than yours. You can then switch. But you can't switch if you take the spousal benefit early. If you take benefits on your own income early and the spousal benefit later on is higher, you could switch to the higher amount. But if you're taking spousal benefits at 62, that's permanent. And it'll never go up. Now, it doesn't make any sense for a spouse to wait more than full retirement age because it doesn't go up after full retirement age. Even if your spouse is going to hold off till 70, at 66 or what, 67, you would take half of theirs. So these things can be confusing. Social Security is incredibly complicated, and unfortunately, people don't take time in advance to educate themselves. And like I said, over 70% of people haven't planned ahead on it. And again, many times that decision is made for you. I have no choice. I've got to take it. Okay. Speaking of Social Security recipients are finally getting their last stimulus check. Getting a lot of calls from clients and listeners who are on Social Security and didn't file a tax return in the last few years. Where's my stimmy payment? And it went out last week. It's going to take a few weeks for them to go out. But if you're on Social Security and you don't file income taxes for the last few years because your income's too low, and that's virtually everybody who lives on Social Security alone, will not be filing a tax return most likely because you don't have a pension. You don't have much other income usually, and you're not required to file. But they finally went out this week. If you're not sure, I mean, I stress this to everybody. You can track what's going on with your stimulus payment by going to the IRS website, irs.gov. And the Get My Payment tool that's on there, just click on it, plug your information in. It'll tell you the status of your third stimulus payment. You could also find out what type of payment you're going to get. Is it going to be a paper check? Is it going to be direct deposit? Is it going to be a debit card? And they'll give you the projected direct deposit or paper delivery date. So it's very easy to do. So why not do it? Now, when Social Security beneficiaries under this scenario were looking into that, they were getting pending because they didn't know when they were going to go out. Now that status is changing. Now, the big concern everybody has is the financial situation of Social Security, the stability of it, the viability of it. Social Security, the trustees have recently said that the trust funds will be depleted in 2034. And that actually dropped a year because of coronavirus and such. And as I said, for many people, 33% of Americans, Social Security is their only income. And for over 50%, it's most of their income. So, I mean, there's no way this can go away without major ramifications to the financial welfare of an entire segment of our population, the retired people, the seniors. So what happens if the funds run dry? Well, the trustees said that Social Security could pay out about 75% of promised benefits with the amount of money they'll have coming in from payroll taxes. Now, lawmakers are almost certain to build up Social Security. They're not going to let this happen. And if you're 50 or older, I would have no worries about Social Security for you. Now, they may have to tax everybody to death to keep it viable. But they'll do what it takes. It's just too politically important. But younger generations, I'd be really concerned. So what are some of the fixes they can make? Well, they could either add revenue and keep benefits at their current level. They can cut benefits to match the level of revenue coming in. Or they could do both. What they're going to do is boost revenue to keep benefits the same. That's almost guaranteed in my opinion. So the first thing they're going to do is boost the payroll tax rate Right now, employees and employers pay 6.2% of an employee's salary to Social Security. That's 12.4%. It's amazing how many workers don't realize that your employer pays half your Social Security contributions. You know when you learn that? When you become self-employed. Self-employed people on their net profit have to pay both the 6.2% from the employee and the 6.2% from the employer because they're both. That's in addition to income taxes. That's what blows a lot of people out. I see a lot of real estate agents that I do taxes for. Real estate agents are notorious. They get paid as independent contractors. They're not salaried employees. So they get commissions, and at the end of the year, their real estate agency sends them a 1099. And I saw one last week for $117,000 in commissions. Hasn't paid a dime in taxes. So I do their tax return, and they owe $22,000 federal taxes and something like $5,000 in state taxes. And they're like dumbfounded. Where am I going to get this money? The big risk, the self-employed people, they get into tax risk. They get into tax holes that they can't get out of. And that's why it's very perilous if you're self-employed and not disciplined. I tell self-employed individuals, what you think your net profit's going to be, take 25% of it at least and put it in a separate checking account, and every quarter make an estimated tax payment. And get that out of your life into the coffers of the government. That way when your taxes are prepared in the spring, you don't have this big bill you have to come up with that you can't get out from under. And it's no fun owing the IRS money. Trust me. So I have a client now, one of those clients that owed taxes to the IRS last year and has only been making minimal payments and keep getting letters from the IRS. You still owe us, and they keep tacking on interest. And now this year, they're going to be in a hole for another $20,000. That's a financial death knell, though, for them. They're done. So now they want to increase that tax rate. One of the proposals is to increase it by 0.1 of 1 percentage point per year between 2026 and 2045 until it reaches 14.4%. And that would reduce Social Security shortfall by 46% over 75 years. That, I think, will happen. I think that's going to happen. How about increasing the limit on wages subject to tax? You know, once you hit a certain amount of earnings, you don't pay that Social Security tax anymore. And that's gone up over the years. It used to be in the 90s. For 2021, the cap is $142,800. So once you go over that, they stop withholding Social Security tax. You've maxed out for the year. And I think raising the payroll tax cap is a popular idea on Congress. I really do. Now, Biden has made a proposal that would maintain the current structure for taxable maximum, but reapply the 12.4% tax for wages above $400,000. So that you'd have a gap between $142,800 and $400,000, and then once you go over $400,000, the Social Security kicks in again. So wealthy people, high earners, would have a little bit of a break in the middle there, but then they'd start paying Social Security again after they hit $400,000. Another thing that the government can do is expand the type of incomes that are taxed. They can, instead of just taxing Social Security for wages, they can go after maybe investment income or employee or employer premiums on health insurance. They could raise the full retirement age, and they're doing it now. Full retirement age used to be 65. For me, now it's almost 67. I was born in 1960. I think it's 66 and 8 months, something like that. And for those younger than me, it's going to be 67. And why not? I don't have a problem with that once I get my full retirement benefits at 67. I have no problem with that. But they're going to do it. I mean, let's face it, as longevity goes up, people now, you know, when Social Security started, back in the 30s, the average life expectancy of a male was 67. So if you got full retirement benefits at 65, you enjoyed them for 2 years. And then bye-bye you go. But now people are living to be 90, 95. So they're being paid these benefits for, 30 years in some cases. And as I said before, people have the ability to work longer. They're healthier now as they age, and 70 is like the new 50 or 60. And people have the ability to continue working up until 70. One idea is to index the full retirement age to longevity. So as the longevity goes up, the full retirement age goes up with it. But if you're close to claiming Social Security, you're not going to be affected. People are going to be grandfathered into any changes that are being made, and there's really no changes on the table right now yet. So if you're doing retirement planning now and you're going to retire in 4, 5, 6 years, and that's going to be it's not going to change. Another talk that they're trying to do is to alter the formula for cost of living adjustments. Now, get a kick of this. They're looking to use a different index because they say the one that's being used now overstates inflation. So what they want to do is make your cost of living increases smaller by using a different index. And that's ridiculous. And my Social Security beneficiaries know that they have not kept pace with inflation. The cost of living adjustments in Social Security have been dreadful because it is tied to the fraudulent Consumer Price Index. You know, the Consumer Price Index is what? Right around 2% according to the government. Shadow Stats economist John Williams, a guy I follow all the time, he calculates inflation based on the way it was calculated in 1980. Remember the last big inflation scare we had? Jimmy Carter was president, and then the interest rates had to be increased to 18% by the Federal Reserve. Inflation was in the mid-teens at that point. Well, calculating inflation today, as it was calculated then, he says is at least 10%. Jimmy Carter type inflation is what we're experiencing now, and we haven't even seen the inflation that's come. We'll talk later if we get some time to talk about inflation. Inflation is here, my friends. Or at least its little brother. The big brother hasn't come yet, but it's coming. All right, let's take a break. 732-505-1160 is the call number. My name is Lou Scatigna. You're listening to The Financial Position. Don't go away.